Hello again, and welcome to another edition of Top 10 Worst of Lists, the finest in the worst in the entirety of the Top 10 Worst of community. I'm your host for this evening's stellar endeavor. I am Earl Ebird, and what an honor it is to be able to present to you this uncommonly and utterly fantastic top 10 worst of list, which for today is top 10 worst choices in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. This is quite frankly a list that's long overdue, because the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is literally littered with unnecessary. It's a padded list, is what it is. There's lots of people, lots of people who don't deserve to be on, because I mean the whole thing is sort of like it's like an offshoot of a Ponzi scheme, isn't it? Where they've got people, they got every year they got to have this big to-do or whatever with a bunch of people on, and they know that it's clickbait stuff, and they'll focus a lot on acts that shifted a lot of units and prioritize them. But mostly what it is just, in their endless hunger to accumulate more funds and interest in their piss poor little Hall of Fame, they are compelled to shove in a bunch of filler. It's almost like listening to a Britney Spears album, where you get one song, maybe two, that are listenable, and the rest is just garbage. Disposable. And, I really think that's a goddamn shame. I think that a lot of these people need to be put out to pasture. Paul Schaefer, for one. I mean, what the hell is Paul Schaefer running every one of those stupid tone-deaf jams that they do at the end of each of those, $1 million a plate Hall of Fame induction ceremony galas that they have every year? There aren't enough people to go around every year that are Hall of Fame worthy. And, in order to kind of maintain some sort of whiff of legitimacy, they have like sort of stored up like a kitty of decent acts that they're just sort of trickling out, that will still, once they get down to the absolute total dregs, where they're putting like people who, had nothing to do with the making of their own music and don't know how to play an instrument and never played live without a backing track to fall back on. Once they start inducting those dregs, those smug, elitist, sort of posh, talentless nobodies that have been artificially manufactured into being stars by having these vast teams of producers working on all their stuff in their name. I mean, really, they'll be able to float out some of the people that they've been, holding in reserve that, obviously deserve to be in there, I don't know, Blue Oyster Cult. From there, I get to some of those later on, and some of the people that have yet to be inducted that, really, truly deserve to. But before we get to all of that, and before we get to our list, I've got just a little bit of business to take care of. Make sure that we're all on the same page together, making good things happen. Number one, I'm an oddball, and a lot of things I say are going to be informed by that reality. So as we traverse our way through the what I anticipate could be a bumpy road for some of us, keep in mind that, and I'll try to keep it on topic here, pun intended, I march to the beat of a different drummer. Thank you, Mike Nesmith of the Monkees, who wrote the song Different Drum. But anywho, I want to, put it out there that while I am, admittedly an oddball, I think that the oddball mentality, the weirdos of this world, are, perhaps the last ones that they'll send, that the AI cybernetic robots will send to the death camps, because they'll want to probably clinically study some of us, like what was it, what were the flawed elements of their personality, their physiognomy, their body chemistry, their lifestyle, their life events, and how does all of that mutate the nonconformists into people who go against the flow. So while there's all the yuppies and the sellouts and stooges and ne'er-do-wells and everything like that, you could just toss them into the gigantic wood chipper that I'm sure that they're building for us down there in South America. And I think that the weirdos, they might want to keep them around for a little bit and just, dissect our brains and stuff. Maybe not a great thing, but, where they're, just sort of hold out and see what happens. Number two, I'm not partisan. Not gonna do it. Not gonna die. Broccoli. Not gonna die. This sort of arbitrary imposed divide between right and left doesn't organically exist. It's just they've picked a series of wedge issues and then they've created a responsive, dynamic indoctrination that will lead people to sort of organically choose between the twofold presented choices of all of these wedge issues and divide us right down the middle. So they'll take stuff like abortion, and then they'll say not only will they take that, because they know that they can divide the abortion issue and give it its own duality super easy. Pro-life, pro-choice, that type of thing. And then they'll cater a lot of individualized propaganda to both sides to make them feel like that's the only choice. But there's lots of choices, lots of things that we could be doing without having to harass doctors and, people who are stuck with an unwanted bun in the oven and torturing them. You could have, national health. You could have universal daycare. You could have volunteer societies that help pregnant women in crisis to get through it, or it's literally dozens of things that smart people, I'm sure, could think of a lot better than I can. But I know, I'm sure right off the top of my head, I got those three that are all things that we could be working on together without having to, be at each other's throats, without having to toss tons of millions and billions of dollars probably by this point over to the lawyers to fight this out in courts, and it's just a goddamn shame. And it's without having to boss women around, without having to kill off abortion doctors, we could all be working together on things that would dramatically reduce the amount of abortions that happen within this country. And this country is pretty desperate for population growth because it's been, plummeting. And that's what, sort of killed, when Japan was looking like they were going to economically wipe the floor with everybody on planet Earth and become the preeminent economic power, is they stopped, their birth rate plummeted, and so did their economy. Because, look, it's the simplest way to get gross national product to raise up, and that's through increasing your population. Because, there's more people who are, having to, get rent, get housing, get food, get clothes, transportation, everything. It's just the more people you have in your society, the bigger your GMP is going to be. GDP. Sorry. Oh, God, so sorry. Anyway. So, I'm not going to fight anymore. I'm a golden rule guy. And, of course, I'm not talking about the hate mongers and the sadists and monsters of this world. I'm just talking about regular, ordinary, working class people. Because they don't have anybody who's championing, us, basically. It's a goddamn shame. It's what it is. All right, so before we get to the list, I've got just a couple last things. First of all, a lot of people are writing in saying that, I'm just making up these lists as I go. Not true. I actually get together with a team of former body waxers who gather with me out in front of the Rainforest Cafe in downtown Chicago and take copious doses of children's Tylenol and lick the bellies of poisonous toads in order to be able to come up with these lists. And, we've got sponsors today. It's everybody's favorite part of the show, by far, is the announcing of the commercial sponsors. We got the Gone in 60 Seconds, the story of the East Wing of the White House, from producers of Gone in 60 Seconds. This is the sequel, Gone in 60 Seconds, the White House East Wing, where a lunatic narcissist tears down 1/3 of the White House without permission to do so and leaves a giant hole in the ground, and then claims that he's going to have private industries pay for it, and then has, earmarks $1 billion towards what was once a $200 million addition. It's Gone in 60 Seconds, the story of the East Wing of the White House, coming soon to a major motion picture indoctrination center near you. That's it. All right, so let's get to it, shall we? This is a big, important list, rich with observational details and profundities, like total profundities up the yin-yang. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It's like a little bit of an intro. I wrote out a little bit of an intro because that's how important this particular top 10 worst of list is. In the Pro Football Hall of Fame, you see people who played until they were physically incapable to line up for another snap. A lot of them die by their 40th birthday and stuff like that, just like rock and roll. But their quality years mostly represent all of their active years when it comes to analyzing, pro football. There aren't a ton of people who really stuck around too long in terms of ruining their legacy. But there, some, but in music, people stay active way beyond their quality years, and that's a problem because you got these people in the Hall of Fame, like Paul McCartney, let's say, and McCartney, I think, has done enough good albums, here and there, to get by. But I mean, there's oh, here's somebody, Neil Young. Now, Neil Young did, I don't know, maybe 4 albums in the 60s and 70s that are like really must own classics. Uh, but since Live Rust, has he really done much of anything? Or maybe a couple of songs? But there's been like 30 albums since then of absolutely unlistenable garbage, self-indulgent dross. And I mean, does he still continue to get a free ride because of the good stuff that he did for 3 or 4 years? And then for 45 years after that, it's nothing but unlistenable garbage. At what point does an aggregate score, need to really kind of come into focus here? Like, I don't know, but it kind of seems like Neil Young's worn out his welcome. Like, you measure the good albums versus the total albums, and it's like 10% of the albums. And the rest of it, like 90% of his albums, are atrocious. So at what point do you start to say, oh, Neil Young, sorry, but you got to go, and kick him to the curb? And that's what we're talking about. So how do you measure somebody who was great for 3 to 4 years and then spent 30 to 40 years sucking? The answer now is that they put him in the Hall of Fame, just leave him there. Like, like the rest of their lives don't matter. The Rolling Stones. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Sorry about this. But, the Rolling Stones, I mean, they did what? From the early 60s, I mean, throughout the 60s, they did maybe one good album, Aftermath, in 1965, and then they had Beggars Bank, that run of great albums, Beggars Banquet, Live with, like my, Let It Bleed, Sticky Fingers, and Exiles. And then it drops off pretty fast after that. You get, Goat's Head Soup is real forgettable. And one or two songs that are even like sort of listenable. The rest are kind of just, Star Star. I'll give you Star Star. But Heartbreaker is just embarrassing. And what's that one with the lady? Angie is cringe. And 100 Miles from Home, cringe. I mean, it's a little bit of it is good here and there. What's that? Night Train? What's that one? Hide Your Love? Then they're horrible. And Silver Train, stupid. I mean, they had a song All Down the Line on the previous album. Now they're doing Silver Train. It's like a sort of weak-kneed self-parody. It's so fast, too. I mean, they finish up Exiles, which is great, no doubt, and then they descended to unlistenable, embarrassing, cringy self-parody within, like a year. It's just like astounding. And then they just like sort of give up on making albums. Like, doing us a favor, every 5 years or whatever, they'll toss out an album and they're horrible on 90%. Well, if you, It's Only Rock and Roll has got some decent numbers, but it's only about a third of the album. And it's a real short album too. So you get You Can't Rock Me, and Fingerprint File is good, and It's Only Rock and Roll. And that's really it on that album. So that album mostly sucks. I'm trying to think if there's anything. I don't think I have I don't think I've missed anything. And then Black and Blue is embarrassing. It's got, Hot Stuff is okay. And I do love Crazy Mama is a great jam, actually. But that's it. The rest of it is like Fool to Cry. Are you kidding me? That's the Rolling Stone. That's the same guys who did uh, Let It Bleed 8 years earlier. And then you get Some Girls, which is a great album, no doubt. And their last listenable album. Everything else is mostly unlistenable. I mean, they get, hit or miss rate. You get, I guess you get some, well, but still, even Tattoo You has only got like two songs worth listening to. Start Me Up, obviously, and Slave. But all the rest of it is garbage. Waiting on a Friend? Oh, God. Who told anybody? Who believes actually? I mean, people, the critical keep saying, Waiting on a Friend, so great. What a return to form. Not a return to form. Cringe. Waiting on a Friend. How stupid. What a throwaway tune. It should have stayed an outtake. And I don't know if there's anything else on that album that's worth the Hellfire. Is that what's that? Boring, stupid. And everything else is boring, stupid. Undercover, boring, stupid. The whole album, boring, stupid. Steel Wheels. I mean, you get one song that's, semi-listenable on all this stuff. Just nothing. Garbage. 30 years worth of garbage. And, so they did, what's up to, I would say, Tattoo You. Because, not that I think that it's all that great an album. It's got two great tunes on it. So, Tattoo You, I don't know, what is that, 82? Something, I'll give you up to 82. So, you get from 64 to 82 is, 18 years. And then it's 30 years of nothing. Horrible garbage. So I think the Stones have outstayed their welcome. What's the point of keeping these people in the Hall of Fame if they spend 90% of their careers sucking? At some point, you got to say, hey, look, you should have quit while you were ahead. Call yourself something else. And, after Tattoo You, that's it. And just go do another thing. It's the same type of thing where you put airbags, like there's probably about 30 airbags in cars these days, something like insane like that. And I don't think it helps people drive safer. I think it, gives them the idea, like a cocoon mentality, that they could drive through a brick wall and all the airbags will come shooting out and they'll be just fine. I think instead they should have poison-tipped, like darts flying out of where all the airbags are housed in current vehicles that should fire out towards the driver and passengers when there's a collision. Now, if you had the poison darts, there's nobody on earth who's going to drive unsafe. You could have like the first offense, like you could have where the darts shoot out towards a family member, like somebody in the passenger seat, and you leave them with the guilt of having been responsible for murdering, a loved one or a dear friend who's sitting in the passenger seat, gets the poison-tipped spines in the throat. And you're like looking and going like, oh my God, why did this have to happen for me to learn this lesson? And I mean, how great would that be? I mean, because it'll be zero accidents and overnight. you'd have zero accidents. People would be like driving so carefully and watching out for each other, and letting people go, and the crosswalks. That's stupid too. That's just designed to have more collisions in the city. I'm sure that I'm heartily convinced that there's a statistics out there where all these giant flower pots they put in the middle of important streets and thoroughfares in major cities that block you from being able to see oncoming traffic when you're turning left and stuff, and then all the different embankments that they have, and tempered zones that get covered with snow and ice so that people can't see them, busting their wheels and their tires and their axles, and then all the various different crosswalks where they're enforcing it now, where people have to come to a complete stop. And it's so ambivalent. You don't know if somebody's waiting on the corner for a bus. You don't know if they're waiting on your drug dealer. You don't know what they're waiting there for. It just can't possibly tell. Then you have to come screeching to a halt in order, to let them through on the crosswalks. It's dumb, dumb, dumb. And I'm sure that they have numbers on just how much accidents that all of these things are causing people to have, and they continue to do it because, number one, the politicians, regardless of what party that they outwardly profess themselves to be associated with, number one agenda item for them is to make the lives of the working class impossible, painful, and suck all the available resources out from each and every one of us. Number two, they're looking to help provide a sort of subsidies to the auto parts industry by not filling in potholes, by creating these tons and tons of accidents, I'm sure, from people coming to a screeching halt to let people through on the crosswalks and people barreling into the back of them, or not being able to make a left turn with an unobstructed view. And I'm sure there's plenty of accidents like that. They do it intentionally because the auto parts industry and the auto repair industry are inexorably tied to the military-industrial complex, because the military needs a bunch of parts and whatnot on an ongoing basis, and they can't afford to keep the factories open 24/7, 365. It's just not possible. So they get us, to sucker us into supporting all those necessary parts industries and stuff like that. So there's enough parts left over for cheap for their tanks, their armored personnel carriers, and et cetera, that they wouldn't be able to afford if they didn't have a healthy parts industry. And with cars being made better and better, that parts industry is increasingly endangered by all of this. And why do you think they put plastic and glass inlaid reflectors into the back bumpers of every car now? Why would anybody on earth intentionally design a piece of plastic to be put into a rear bumper that's meant to serve as a purposes to have an impact crumple zone for everything from significant accidents to just sort of parking by braille, where you maybe bump a little bit of the car behind you when you're trying to parallel park. The reason why they put those pieces of plastic in there, and they're everywhere now. They never used to be anything like that. I mean, how is that considered to be an improvement? Because the fact of the matter is that they can probably charge you about $500 for each one of those stupid ass plastic little inlaid things. Just to take the rest of the bumper off, fix the bumper, put these plastic inlays in. It's just might as well replace your whole damn car. And they do it specifically because they know that it's a payoff for all the parts and labor side of the economy, because cars are being made so well that they needed, in order to be able to survive, which is necessary in order for the military industrial complex to be able to afford its parts that they need for their, toys, as it were, that they have things like that. That's why they have these plastic things in there. Because nobody on God's green earth would think that that's logical or worth, anything. Nobody looks down there. You look at the brake lights. which are, 2 feet above that. So you're not, I mean, the reflectors don't even work. They're not powered or anything like that. They're just reflectors. They're inlaid, and they're inlaid so much into the bumper that they're kind of in the shadows. You don't see the reflectors at all. Why are they there? They're there to upsell you on pricey car repair items for things that shouldn't even be there in the first place. Well, so let's take a look at your items. $700 for the bumper, and I'm afraid that we're going to have to charge you $300 a piece for those fancy plastic inlays. It's all scam, you silly bitch bastard. All right, so anyway, what's the top 10 worst choices in the rock and roll, biggest jerks in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? This is, I mean, these are easy pickings for me. I could have gotten probably 2 or 3 times the amount of top 10 worst loves here. Number 10, Paul Simon. Now, Paul Simon, I know is probably going to stroke a lot of you against the grain, but, this guy is so overrated, so overhyped, and such a jagoff, that I just really can't resist. He should, if I didn't have a great number one, he would be at number one. But I put it here because, kind of like a clickbait issue type of thing, where the first thing on the list is somebody that many listeners would find to be outrageous. But let's think about it for just a second. How about this? How about take a listen to the best of Simon and Garfunkel for the early part of his career, and you tell me how many of the songs on that album are total throwaways. Feeling Groovy? Please. A lot of people have been, insulting Obla Di Obla Da by the Beatles. Obla Di Obla Da by the Beatles compared to Feeling Groovy. Is it Kathy's song or the 163rd Street, 116th Street Bridge? I don't know. He's got a lot of stupid songs. It's like 25 seconds long, number one. Number two, it sucks. And number three, compared to the Beatles, Obla Di Obla Da or Maxwell Silver Hammer, which everybody points to as being like the worst songs that they did in the second half of their career, they are freaking timeless classics compared to most of the stuff on the best of Simon and Garfunkel album. They got, in my book, during the Simon and Garfunkel era, he's got 2 songs that are great. That's Sound of Silence and Bridge Over Troubled Water. They got 2 songs that are pretty good. America, which is better by the progressive rock band, yes, by far. It's not even in the same team photo than the dull and lifeless version that they've got on Bookends. And then, Mrs. Robinson, which was received well. I don't like it really at all. It's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. It only makes sense in context of the movie, where everybody knows what the movie's all about, which is about some old lady who wants to have carnal relations with Dustin Hoffman for some ungodly reason. If you know that movie and the plot of that movie, then the song makes a tiny little bit of sense. But what's the Joe DiMaggio? What's all this? It makes no sense, really. If you haven't seen the movie, for sure, it doesn't make any sense at all. But even if you have seen the movie, most of it is just sort of word salad, as they like to say. So I'm not giving you a freaking that song. And America, like I said, it's a kind of fun song, kind of neat in its own little way, but not the Simon and Garfunkel version. The Yes version is a titanic masterpiece. And then, so, beyond that, it's all garbage, man. I can't listen to Cecilia, that stupid ass drums that they put in. So goddamn annoying. And the Boxer with even more annoying drums with the giant snare that sounds, it's so incredibly obnoxious to the point of being nauseating, really. And, I don't know, Kathy's song, I don't know, it's all stupid. And then you get into a solo career and you get more word salad and stuff that doesn't mean anything, right? And then he's got, we pick out some of the, I mean, Kodachrome is what is it? I mean, what does it ever really mean? Still crazy after all these years? Boring. 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. Now, here's a big, huge smash song by Paul Simon that everybody, I think, ubiquitously looks at it as an undeniable classic. But I'm telling you, that song is messed up, especially by today's, sort of modern day standards of looking at things and, what they really stood for. And I mean, think about it. 50 ways to leave your lover. How about one way to leave your lover? Saying, I'm sorry, it didn't work out. See ya, wouldn't want to be ya. Confronting the person that you're leaving and telling them, I don't love you anymore. I don't have feelings for you, whatever it is. But just laying it all out. Maybe, trying to be nice about it and, saying it's not you, it's me, it's not me, whatever. It's my upbringing, or I don't know what the specifics are of it. But I do know that in the song, the whole song is about coming up with ways to lie and dump and ghost your lover, and they specifically talk about it, and just dump them. I mean, this is sort of like the whole 70s disco mentality of banging beaver and bird dog and chicks. I mean, what is this really? I mean, the song is horrible. Slip out the back, Jack. Hop on a bus, Gus. Don't need to discuss much. Just drop off the key, Lee, and set yourself free. I mean, what the? It's like totally, providing a detailed map of how to make your lover feel like garbage. I mean, think about what the song really tells you. It's not cute. It's not funny. It's got a great drum riff, but Paul Simon didn't have anything to do with that. It was all Steve, It's the Good Life Gad, who came up with all that stuff. And he's wacky. He's out of his freaking mind. But it's a great drum riff. Okay? But if you've got a great drum riff and you're telling people to go, eat a bag of puds, as it were, in the song lyrics, or you're telling people about how to abuse people instead of having some compassion and be a real person and just tell them straight out. It was basically like, how would you feel about the song called I'm Gonna Ghost You? Or I'm gonna, we screwed around a lot, but, see you later. See you, wouldn't want to be ya. It's garbage. And it gets worse. Paul Simon, after that, 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover had a giant flop, One Trick Pony, a movie and an album, total flop. His career is on the skids, and he decides to, and this is in the era of anti-apartheid, when the protesting of anti-apartheid was at the height, where everybody was unified in the music industry, unified, boycotting, doing gigs, or associating themselves with music of South Africa, all that kind of stuff, because of the effort to try to get rid of apartheid. And lo and behold, here comes Paul Simon And there's videos that go into detail, and I'm sure stories that go into detail about what really happened there. But he willingly, and he knew the stakes, and he knew that everybody in the industry was, drawn a line, and the embargo was in full force and working when he crossed that picket line. And he said, "Look, I'm Paul Simon. God damn it, I'm going to go work with a bunch of South African musicians. We're going to create this album." And that album was Graceland. And on top of it, so he's exploiting the musical stylings and the musicians for and appropriating them for his own purposes. And on top of it, he's crossing the line. The anti-apartheid. God damn it! Sorry about that. He's it's just like pathetic, hateful person. And he did it shamelessly. He's like, "Oh, okay, well, what's the big whoop? I'm doing what I feel like doing. I'm making music. Music is a beautiful thing. I don't care about, other people suffering." And then to emphasize what a gigantic scumbag this guy is, as soon as Graceland is done, and the tour and everything, like, kicks all of them to the curb, and then goes out to South America and does the same thing all over again with a bunch of South American musicians, where he's appropriating their music and culture to his own benefit, to come up with a big top 10 album, platinum sales stuff. So Paul Simon, and then and there's a lot of stuff in there that's just pure garbage. Graceland and the album after it, okay, but everything else is just unlistenable garbage. So this guy is a scumbag, talented at times, but I mean, for the amount of garbage that he's put out since his heyday, I mean, even freaking Graceland is what, like 40 years old now? And so, been a while since that guy's done anything listenable too. So you do, again, this is another one of these guys. Goes from 65, because they started kind of late, and to 85, really, ish. And then the rest of it is just unlistenable, boring elevator music. All right, number 9 of the top 10 worst jerk-offs in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the Dave Clark 5. Now let me see if I get this straight. Okay, this is, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is not for, like middling kind of acts that, popped up for a year or thereabouts and made a little bit of noise. They do have, and this is better than some of the others that I've got on the list, they do have 2 number 1 hits and 2 or maybe 3 number 4 hits. So they did, within that year or two that they were in vogue, they did make the most of it, but that's still pretty freaking feeble. 2 number 1s and 2 number 4s. It sounds like draft picks in the NFL draft. But I'm not going to, I would like to trade out the Dave Clark 5 for, I don't know, Jethro Tull seems like a pretty good replacement for those guys. I mean, album after album, it's the quality of Jethro Tull is just badassery. Did they make Jethro Tull? Did they finally make it on the most thing? Hang on a second. I don't want to, let you down by having a falsehood. So we'll do this here right quick. By the way, how about them Cubbies? Don't you just hate it? And all the people who support the Cubs when they're owned by one of the inner circle Trump supporters and they come from a big, huge blue state and city, and yet they go out and they support them. They show pictures of them selves at Wrigley Field, tossing a bunch of money over to the coffers of people who, um, organized the money side of the 2020 Trump campaign. I mean, these aren't just conservatives. All right, so Jethro Tull has not been inducted to the Hall of Fame. I mean, come on, Jethro Tull has some of the greatest music ever made by people, and a series of just tremendously gifted, virtuosic musicians. And how is it that they aren't in the Hall of Fame? And we'll get to some of that later before I sign off. I have a list of some suggestions. And again, it's sort of like it's obvious that they're just kind of holding a few good ones back so that when they have to start inducting Britney Spears and all the Justin Biebers and all these stupid artificially manufactured moronic pieces of plastic, life support systems for a hairdo. But, Dave Clark 5 is sort of like, no, thank you. Well, they're a little bit better than some of the other ones on this list, but, making them Hall of Famers, it's just embarrassing. Glad all over. So, I mean, a piece of nonsense, pop, bubblegum garbage. It's just, there's just no, I mean, what did they do that was so memorable that would be worth noting? I think it was just because that they're, an American band, and there were so many British bands from that era that were getting in that they were just kind of like, oh, we'll throw an American band in there, huh? Number 8 in the top 10 worst jerk-offs in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Del Shannon. Del freaking Shannon. Okay? Quick, name anything that anyone knows or has ever known that Del Shannon was responsible for in music. Okay, Runaway. There it is. Runaway. The song Runaway. Which is a really good song for its era. Don't get me wrong. That song is great. Name me another one that Del Shannon is known for. Do 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 do. You can't, because it doesn't exist. This guy, everything else, the second biggest song of his career that I could find is a song called Hats Off to Larry. Hats Off to Larry? What, are you kidding me? God damn, what the hell are you doing, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Del Shannon? One song? And, it just... It debases all the rest of the ones that are in there that are great. And it's infuriating to think that these guys are so high and mighty that they'll milk all these half-assed nobodies to pad their honor roll or whatever, so they can keep having these ceremonies every year and keep raising a bunch of money and keep raising awareness and having these, product placement in the real world. It's horrible. Tons and tons of duds. This guy is another guy who came up with one song that anybody likes or knows, and then, I don't know, 10, 20 something years of stuff that's just utterly forgettable, useless, disposable nothing. Speaking of useless, disposable nothing, you got my number 7 on the list of top 10 worst jerk-offs in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, The Lovin' Spoonful. Okay, here's a band, and I hesitate to call it that because it gives a bad name to bands all over the place. These are a group of smug, snobbery, jerky malignant tossers who, shouldn't even be anywhere near the Hall of Fame. They got two songs that anybody remembers. I almost said Hot Child in the City, Summer in the City, and Do You Believe in Magic? Okay? Everything else that they did sucked. And even those two songs kind of suck. Bubblegum, nothing. Does it do anything to uplift people? Summer in the City could be said that's, at least a little bit different. It's not just a formulaic love song or anything like that. And do you believe it's magic? It's a pop song that's good, for what it is. But two songs does not make a candidate. Should not make a candidate to a Hall of Fame. Who are you kidding? And the band wasn't around. They didn't do anything else that's notable. And then they had a lot of fluctuating membership and stuff like that. Garbage. Do 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 do. All right. Now this next one I think is going to be perhaps a little source of controversy. Might rub people the wrong way, or at least rub people the wrong way with consent. By the way, no unsolicited rubbing the wrong way. And it's number 6 is Bon Jovi. Now, Bon Jovi shifted a lot of units. Okay. Ooh la la. Shifted my unit. But he was so trite, so disposable, so downright regrettable. I think I've told this story on another episode where I went to see, a friend got free tickets and we went to see Bon Jovi on a Tuesday or whatever the hell it was. And we're hanging out, and it was so obnoxious. Bon Jovi's strutting around like a 6-year-old all over the stage, and it's embarrassing and cringy and stupid, and so full of himself that they actually had to. So bad they had to set off fireworks all throughout the songs. So there's fireworks. We're doing on the second song, they've already had fireworks going off. And flash pots and all that kind of stuff about, I don't know, probably about 10 times. Some of them really loud and totally obnoxious, and just the band was kind of meh at best. And so we left. After 2 songs, we're like, forget it. This isn't worth sitting through. And, a bit of a music snob, I guess, is not a stretch of the imagination, because I, had a real good luck streak in getting to some real amazing concerts in my day. And this was not one of them. This was just embarrassing. And just the songs are so, childish. It's not even bubblegum. It's above bubblegum, but it's below anything that anybody with any kind of a brain should be entertained by. I'm sorry, but if you're thinking that Bon Jovi is good or laudable or belongs in the Hall of Fame, you need to have your head checked. I'm serious. You definitely need to have your meds adjusted. I'm telling you. Alrighty. Number 5 of the top 10 worst jerk-offs currently inducted into the Hall of Fame. And this is the most recent, one of the most recent classes, most recent class. Billy Idol. Now, I don't know who he sucked off, pardon my French, to get added into the Hall of Fame. My first guess would be Paul Schaefer, but that's just me. And Paul Schaefer is not gay. He's been married, but, he seems like a guy who'd be, old school guy who'd be totally into Head for Backstage Pass, as the old Jeff Beck song was titled. Billy Idol's got two songs that anybody even remembers. I don't even know what they did on the charts. He's got White Wedding and Rebel Yell, and that is it. If they had any others that I'm forgetting, I'm sorry, but he could have had another 3 or 4 songs. White Wedding is sort of, I guess it's a little bit different. And Rebel Yell. I mean, what is that? A tribute to the Confederacy? Or I mean, what is he rebelling against exactly? Um, about being a poser with bleach blonde hair, and I mean, he wasn't really much of anything. He was like a bubblegum version of punk. Had nothing to say, no um, intensity, no political affiliation, no purpose to anything that he's saying. Just, you know, again, disposable nothing. Uh, I'd rather watch um, a hologram of ABBA. That show, they got a hologram show now. I'd rather watch a hologram of ABBA's got more emotional, intellectual, and uh, integrity than anything Billy Idol's ever done. The next on number 4 of the top 10 worst jerk offs in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the Dells. Now, the Dells, I just don't get it. I mean, maybe I should listen to the Dells to see what all the hullabaloo's about. And they got a lot of people that, obviously must have liked them back in the day, a million years ago, in the meat era of the music business or something. I don't know, but they never had an album that went above 29 in the charts, never had a single that went above 10 on the charts, and no one on earth remembers anything they ever did. Now, that's not to say that chart position of your albums and singles should be the measure by which you're inducted into the Hall of Fame. In fact, it shouldn't really have much, if anything, to do with it. I mean, certainly in some cases, there needs to be some kind of compromise between popularity and quality, of which I think quality of music should be, 75% of it, maybe 25% for popularity, stuff like that. I mean, really, at some point, you gotta, kowtow a little bit to the unfortunate digressions of an increasingly ignorant and hapless, infantile culture at large. But the Dells, that's where, I mean, I'm going to read off in a second a bunch of people who have not been inducted and think about the Dells and who they, and maybe research it for yourself and see, I mean, like, who are these guys? And, you've got like a lot of people who failed to sell a lot of albums that, should probably be considered and stuff like that. Todd Rundgren never sold a ton of albums. He had that one album, that one big hit, something, anything, 2 hits on there. I Saw the Light, or something like In Your Eyes. And then Hello, It's Me. And then he did have that one other gigantic number, which is probably the biggest out of all of it, was Bang on the Drum All Day, which was a giant novelty hit, which was great. It was, at the time, it was a fun hit. But this guy is a producer, and he's his side projects, like the Nas, side projects, the band he started with, the Nas, is amazing, and so much fun and intense and unique. And then he's got Utopia, which is amazing. So I mean, if he were, and I don't know if he's inducted or not. I don't have him on my list. But he's a guy who's like, his quality is so tremendous that you could say, like, well, this is a guy who definitely needs to make it in on quality. But the Dells? Number 3, top 10 worth of people in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Percy Sledge. Now, Percy Sledge has one number 1 hit, and his second highest hit was number 11 on the charts. No album ever got above 37 on the charts. And his one number 1 hit is really the only one that anybody knows or remembers. And that's, was it A Man Loves a Woman? And a man, a woman, it's a good song. I mean, no doubt. But Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for just that? When all the other people coming in with this list, my list of the forgotten performers, and it's not, my list of the forgotten performers are just kind of based on just the overall size of the acts. It has absolutely nothing to do with like the quality of their music, which should have been preeminent in a lot of the decision making process, but never has been. I mean, I suppose you got a few bands that have been added that have a profound musical abilities, but a lot of the best of them have been left out. But Percy Sledge is just ridiculous. It just doesn't make any sense at all. And number two, I've got as a tie for number two. Oh my God, tie! Oh my God. I'm going with Foreigner tied with Bad Company for number two of the worst jerk offs inducted into the Hall of Fame. I mean, here's a couple of bands that are whiter than white, that have, all their songs and ideas and everything like that are all based on suburbanite mentalities and cringy as hell. Ready for love, I'm ready for love. Ready for love, I'm ready for love. Ready for love, I'm ready for love. I mean, just completely boring and redundant and emotionless. Really, it's just totally emotionless. There's nothing about it that stirs your emotions. These are, a couple of years after Sly and the Family Stone, and you got this trite garbage. And Foreigner, Dirty White Boys? What the hell is that supposed to be? Dirty White Boys. Get out of here with Dirty White Boys. Get them out of the freaking Hall of Fame. It's stupid. And they got a few hits. They shifted a lot of units. Yeah, but I mean, the quality of it is so banal and smug and arrogant and has no depth of character whatsoever. Hot-blooded, I'm hot-blooded. Jesus Christ, what's with this frickin' hair lick? What's Bad Company got? Six Shooter. I don't even know, man. Rock and Roll Fantasy, which, by the way, was also a song written by the Kinks. The title of the song, they did a song Rock and Roll Fantasy about, 2 years before Bad Company did theirs. Had their hit. Hair licks galore. Pulling the hair licks. Sad. Talk about trite and disposable. It's I can't argue that. I am trite and disposable. I can shake my fist at these jerk-offs for being posers when I am just a nobody, and I realize that my opinion isn't worth squat, but it's still my freaking opinion, okay? And, I wouldn't belittle anybody for their opinion unless it was wrong. People who love Foreigner, and what's is Cheap Trick in the freaking Hall of Fame? I don't think so. Oh, they probably are. They're this type of white bread band that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame loves. Cheap Tricky Wiki. Cheap Trick in the Hall of Fame? Ooh, we're about to find out. This is exciting. I'm doing this live. Operating without a safety net. Oh, they were. See? And Cheap Trick, their first 3 albums, I'll give you. Great. Just absolutely freaking great. And their live shows in those early days, freaking great. But from Budokan on, it's just sort of bitch please. It just became more and more trite and forgettable, and like all these other foreigners, bad companies and stuff like that. But I will give actually Cheap Trick for those first 3 albums and those live shows they used to do. I'll give them the hall pass on this one. But Foreigner and Bad Company, Jesus Christ, I just can't get it out of my head how bad those bands really are. And absolutely no depth, no grit, monotone, just blah. But I've saved the worst for last on this one, top 10 worst of. I'm so enthusiastic and ready to share this one with you. The number one worst choice in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is none other than, you know him, you hate him, you can't have, like depressive thoughts of how did the world come to this without picturing him in the team photo. It's Eric Clapton. God damn it. Bell. My clangers showing signs of inner deterioration. So tell me about this. Number one, let's just talk about the facts of the matter. Eric Clapton, from 1965 through 1971, is involved with some great stuff. Okay, I'm not gonna, he does that one song or the guitar solo on one song before he flies out the door for the Yardbirds, and then the Blues Breakers. He's there for a minute with the Blues Breakers, then bails on them, and then forms Cream. Great stuff for all of 2 years, I think he gave it out there. Blind Faith, not really fully realized conceptually and needed to be lived in for a little bit longer to be live up to its potential. But, Clapton bailed again there. And then Layla, Derek and the Dominoes, that collapsed. And then nothing worth listening to for 70, 30, 56 years and counting, roughly. And you get 1 or 2 songs that are okay. You get 461 Oceanside Boulevard, you get Motherless Children, and really that's the only one that I remember as being sort of essential rock and roll. I Shot the Sheriff is just a copy off of Bob Marley, and then his songs off of Slow Hand, the songs that were, sort of considered to be the best, Cocaine, as John Cale, right? Or J.J. Cale. I always get those 2 guys mixed up. J.J. Cale. And then, you get such an immense amount of just profanely regrettable, boring, trite, listless, inanimate, it's not even, I hesitate to use the word music, product. It's called product. And this guy's just trying to make a bunch of money and capitalize. I'm just so bad. Lonesome Tonight, and further out down the road, someone's gonna hurt you like you hurt. What is he? Does he get a 2-year-old to write his material, or what? So it's 50 plus years of absolute garbage, and tons of it. Tons of garbage. It's so, I mean, there's nothing like it. This guy doesn't belong to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame anymore. He's outstayed his welcome. You get 6 years worth of good stuff, really, really good stuff, and then followed by 50 something years of just the worst stuff imaginable. I mean, at what point do you take a look at the aggregate of this person's life and say, it's just not worth it anymore? You blew it. It's like that line from that movie, the Copland movie. It's a great movie. I love a lot, and it's sort of interesting and stuff like that, although it's pretty homogenous in terms of diversity and representation. But it's a great plot, and actually, Sylvester Stallone actually has acting chops for once. But Robert De Niro, it comes in, and he's, Sylvester Stallone walks in and says, like they're looking to try to bust a internal affairs type of thing, and Sylvester Stallone shows up to Robert De Niro's office and goes, "You're too late, you blew it!" And it's great stuff. Sorry. Anyway, I digress. Eric Clapton, I need to, have the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame committee kind of, go over to his house, and not like Paul Simon, where you got 50 ways to leave Eric Clapton by the curb, or 50 ways to kick Eric Clapton to the curb. You just need to go and level with him, like a man, and say, "Hey, look, Eric, I don't know what you were thinking with all this just disposable, trite plastic that you've been dishing out for what seems like 1,000 years. But, there's a percentage of music that, has got Hall of Fame sort of qualities, and stuff that doesn't. And, you've dipped below 10%, and you're out. And throw them out. Have them be like the serving as an example. Now, that's just the music side of it. Okay? But there's other things about Eric Clapton that should have precluded him from being inducted into the Hall of Fame in the first place. Namely, that he's the biggest backstabbing turncoat in the history of music. I mean, here's a guy who joins up with the Yardbirds because it suits him and is seen as a good career step, and he uses them to rip one short little guitar solo, and then flies out the door at the end of the recording session practically, and so he leaves them high and dry. And it's a miracle that they happen to stumble up across Jeff Beck and get him in there to salvage what they were trying to do. Otherwise, Eric Clapton, doing that to the Yardbirds would have screwed over the Yardbirds, and the Yardbirds had some good stuff, real good stuff. So he screwed over the Yardbirds. Then he goes to John Mayall and the Blues Breakers, sticks around for the bulk of one album, I believe it is, and then he's out the door with those guys. So up yours, John Mayall and the Blues Breakers, which is something that I've been meaning to tell John Mayall and the Blues Breakers if I ever bumped into them or whatever. Up yours, John Mayall, the Blues Breakers, you rotten bastards. But here's another one that he backstabbed, and saw as a stepping stone for his own personal self-aggrandizement, and just used them to take another jump in his career, and then bailed on them. And so the Blues Breakers, I think they got lucky. I think the next one they had was Peter Green, maybe Mick Taylor. I can't remember exactly. But they just happened. There's just so much talent around that, another superstar was in the waiting. And so Eric Clapton didn't destroy the Blues Breakers, but he didn't really give a rat's ass now, did he? And he could have very easily, had they not found, more quality musicians that had that level of skill or better, that they could have, had a real hell ride because of Eric Clapton. So he moves along to Cream, and that's, he'd seen sort of like his feature thing. It's probably would have, or probably should have, provided that final step in his career to the ultimate superstardom. But he didn't see it as that. Gave it a couple of years, and then he's out the door from Cream. And, he seemed to be the least confrontational of those three guys who were super confrontational. So there's reasons for them to have not sort of spent a lot of time refining their catalog and adding to, because they could have, it was just 2 years. They had like 3 or 4 albums out of like chock full of top 10 hits and smoking music and live album and stuff. A unique approach to, and very influential in the history of rock and roll and even probably like metal and hard rock. But no, it's Up Yours Cream, out the door. And then he goes to Blind Faith, and he lures Stevie Winwood away from his own band Traffic, which I believe showed signs of being what could have been like the next Beatles, and I mean that for the Beatles of the '70s, because they had, between Dave Mason and Steve Winwood, they had probably the best songwriting tandem in pop, rock and roll, whatever, and they had some internal struggles, and Winwood and Mason, clashed quite a bit, and maybe it wouldn't have gone that way, but certainly when Eric Clapton and Ginger Baker from Cream, which was a huge band, and Traffic was just kind of like, one of these bands that had a lot of quality and talent that hadn't yet caught on. And so Clapton and Ginger Baker, invited him to be in, why do I keep thinking of Spooky Tooth, Blind Faith. And they come up with one album that showed some promise. Again, as I said before, not fully formed, but could very well have been. But Eric Clapton's like, up your Stevie Winwood, go suck an egg. And kind of really, really threw Stevie Winwood a big pack of bull dink. Because, he didn't stick around, and he supposedly had committed to sticking around for a while and didn't. And Stevie Winwood had blown off his own band Traffic. And if Traffic wouldn't have gotten interrupted, they probably could have started to come up with some of their own commercial things. And by the time Stevie Winwood circled back to Traffic, it wasn't nearly as commercialized as they had been before. And they lost Dave Mason, and Dave Mason was a big part of that. So, so here we get another issue of Eric Clapton, giving the bums, treating his bandmates like stepping stones and bums. Then he moves on to Derek and the Dominoes. Derek and the Dominoes, same type of thing. They're together for about a year. They put out this great album, Layla, and that's it. Sayonara. See you later. I'm going to play with Delaney and Bonnie. Oh, Jesus Christ. The ultimate in, white bread. And sticks around with them. And then Delaney and Bonnie now he's a solo guy, stealing a lot of Delaney and Bonnie's sort of like vibe and overall timbre of their music. And then that's it. And so he does, after Layla, he does the Eric Clapton solo album. I think that's how the etymology of, maybe it was Eric Clapton before Layla. I don't remember. But it was, those two albums were really the kind of the end of it. And then he's got a couple of Signs of Life here and there on 461 Ocean Boulevard, I think it's called. And, with I Shot the Sheriff is a big hit for him. And Motherless Children was a great jam. And that was it. And then you get 2 songs or 3 maybe off of Slow Hand, which again, the biggest and best of them were written by somebody else, J.J. Cale. And the rest of it is just unlistenable garbage. So he's a backstabber. He's a disingenuous phony who makes commitments to be in bands that he doesn't fulfill. Is the minute he sees something better on the other side of the grass is greener on the other side of the fence. On the other side of the fence, he's off to the races, and that's one of the that's And then I wonder about a lot of the guys who that he had close relationships with other guitarists that sort of died around him. Of course, he was publicly a big follower of Hendrix, of course, Hendrix died under very mysterious conditions, and then Dwayne Allman with Derek and the Dominoes, and Dwayne Allman dies under very mysterious conditions, and then most revealingly, in my opinion, does a show at Alpine Valley with Stevie Ray Vaughan. And Stevie Ray Vaughan, I saw Stevie Ray Vaughan on that tour, just a mind blower in terms of like his talent. And in between the songs, it was just like visionary, like speaking like he saw a revealing sense of the world and an absolute truth, and just really. Sorry, look at that! Wow, I'm sorry. Was that there for long? A little bit of druff there. I apologize. Or actually, it's probably skin off my lips. They're so dry. I think that I saw, and there was a double headliner tour with Jeff Beck playing with. What was that guy? Terry Bozzio, and Stevie Ray Vaughan blew Jeff Beck off the stage. I mean, it wasn't even close. And I've never seen anybody blow Jeff Beck off the stage, or blow in general. And I can only imagine with that hack. I mean, because Clapton's licks have never been all that great. So overrated. Oh, you can play blues licks? Gee, wow. Did you spend like all 5 minutes figuring all that out for yourself? Blues licks are just like stupefyingly easy. And he just plays them over and over again. Sometimes they're fast, sometimes not. But they're just trite. And if you've done it for a couple of years, it's like, okay, what else you got for me? His guitar playing never improved. His guitar playing never advanced. It was always the same. The best of his stuff in the early 70s before he completely gave up and started phoning it in was never even close to what he was doing in 1965 in the BBC collection. I think it's with the Yardbirds, maybe? I don't know. Maybe John Mayall. I can't remember. But there's a BBC collection of him playing with one of those two bands where, he doesn't get featured a whole lot, but when he is, it's just like there's one or two songs where it's just flying and intense, and it's really. But I wouldn't put it past him to have spray painted Clapton as God, which is the famous calling card that rose him to being, where anybody gave a rat's ass about him back before he was even playing or noteworthy in a noteworthy band. I wouldn't be surprised if he spray painted all that himself, based on, having seen. But so back to Stevie Ray Vaughan, here's a guy who had to have blown him away because Clapton has just been the worst for so long, and not just in terms of the music he does, but his guitar playing is just so, repetitive and boring and unimaginative, and the blues that you associate with Eric Clapton shouldn't be the traditional colloquial blues music that he portends to be so fond of and play so much of. The blues, in regards to Eric Clapton, is the blues that you get from listening to his music and his guitar playing. And I firmly believe that after getting blown away in the Alpine Valley show, that Eric Clapton told one of his guys to screw up Stevie Ray Vaughan's helicopter engine, and the crash that happened afterwards was at the behest of Eric Clapton, and I think that Eric Clapton, in my personal opinion, Eric Clapton murdered Jimi Hendrix, Dwayne Allman, and Stevie Ray Vaughan. And I think he quite probable that he threw his baby out the window in that hotel and did it so he could have a chart-topping hit. That's how much of a lowlife I think Eric Clapton is. I wouldn't put it past him. I really wouldn't. And I mean, whose baby flies out of a hotel window? Well, how neglectful can anybody be that you have a baby flying out of a window? I mean, how is he not charged for something, or whoever was supposed to be in charge? How are they not charged? Just God bless it. But something inside me tells me that guy had that song written before he decided to chuck the baby out the window. And it sounds callous. I know how callous it sounds, but I wouldn't put it past him. I really wouldn't. This is a guy who spent his entire career backstabbing everybody he could possibly backstab. And again, guitarists that he was close with wound up dead on multiple occasions. So Eric Clapton, it's just, it's real goddamn regrettable that this is what, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is turning to in terms of being able to have some sort of, it's the lack of quality control. If you had if NASA, every time that they sent up a spaceship, it exploded on the launch pad, and they sent up a few, successful like moonshots and stuff like that up through 1970 whatever 2 or 3 whatever, and then let's say that after that everything that they shot to the moon would blow up on the launch pad, and you got 20, 30 rockets blowing up, and at what point do you say, look, NASA, you can't have the gig anymore? It should be the same thing with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I mean, this is a guy who there's a lot of shady stuff around him. And the talent isn't there. It hasn't been there forever. It's 6 years out of his life in a 60-year-long career that is worth listening to. At what point do you say it's just like sort of, like say like your garbage outweighs the good stuff? Anyway, that's all the time we got for top 10 worst of. Top 10 worst of choices of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has been in part sponsored by, oh wait, no, I'm not done. Here's the acts that I believe that belong in the Hall of Fame that I think have been callously overlooked. And I did this list a few months ago. I don't know if it's fully up to date, but I double checked. So the B-52s, Blue Oyster Cult, Boston, hate 'em, but that first album, forget about it, right? Glenn Campbell, Captain Beefheart, The Carpenters, The Association, The Crystals, Dick Dale, John Denver, Duran Duran, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Grand Funk Railroad, Kraftwerk, The Guess Who, Humble Pie, Iron Maiden, Jethro Tull, Tom Jones, King Crimson, Giorgio Moroder, who a lot of people forget. That guy did all of Don Summer's music in her heyday. And it's amazing. Los Lobos, Taj Mahal, The Meters, The Monkees, Motorhead, Harry Nilsson, Fish, Procol Harum, Diana Ross as a solo artist, The Scorpions, and Thin Lizzy. Now, these are just sort of bands that just are, or acts that are just, where it's just plain obvious. for all kinds of different reasons, for big songs, for big albums, big performances, expressiveness in general. And it doesn't really include like a lot of stuff that has probably gone under the radar, just in terms of the quality of what they were doing. Like bands that just like are mind blowers, like uh, uh, the Cardiacs or Focus, where they're, I mean, Focus 3, the album Focus 3 is such a face melter. It's insane. I mean, these guys rose to a level of just stuff that hardly anybody could ever dream of playing. It would take them years and years to be able to attain the level of musical virtuosity that was necessary to be able to do what they did, and nobody gives a rat's ass. Well, that's wrong. What are the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame people awarding people for? For just like showing up and shifting units? It's like the Grammys. My biggest thing about the Grammys is their award is shaped like a record player. So they tell you right from the get-go that they're all about album sales. Well, there's something more about us. Grammys is supposed to be about the quality of music primarily, not because of what's popular. The freaking Jonas Brothers, are you going to make them the Grammy Award winners and stuff like that? Just mailing in garbage that's created by a team that they have nothing to do with? Or awarding Sam Smith for a song that 2 weeks before they gave him the Song of the Year award had been ruled to be plagiarized from Jeff Lynne from ELO and Tom Petty, who had never been awarded a Grammy before on their own. They had to get a song found to be plagiarized by Sam Smith, or Team Sam Smith, more appropriately, in order to be able to get a Grammy of their own. And these are guys who had great, great music for many, many years, and did tours and really sacrificed for a long, long time, to the point where they should have been. It's just a goddamn shame that none of that stuff ever seems to matter for either the Hall of Fame or the Grammy Awards. And it's like they don't even give a rat's ass about quality of music hardly at all. Sometimes you get, I think Stevie Wonder got back-to-back albums of the year back in his little run of world beater albums in the early to mid 70s. But beyond that, it's just like so freaking regrettable. Gentle Giant is a band that could be in there. You could have Don Caballero and math rock bands that could be in there very easily in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. These are guys who just like played their asses off. The Poly Six, what's it called? Melt Banana? What the Melt Banana? I mean, nobody can play that. Nobody can even comprehend what it is. It's just, it's a talent and a profound ability to be virtuosic at a level that's just uncanny. And they can't get anybody to care about them when it comes to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Or get rid of all these guys that I said, get rid of this 10 and start bringing in, bands that give some real hair on their nuggets. And get in Focus into the Rock and Roll Hall. Get Melt Banana in, God damn it, and get off the top of my head, I'm real tired. I've been doing this all night. There's bands out there. Go ahead and leave some band ideas in the comments if you would. It would be a great forum to start to you know, reclaim our culture and have it be meaningful. Um, I don't know, man. It's a sad state of affairs that we have to live with a culture that's doing all these horrible things to us and not be able to have a uh, anybody who respects depth of character. When did everybody start wanting everything to be so simple and recognize simplicity as a laudable value of something? Not to say that everything needs to be like um, just ultra complex prog rock or something like that in order to be able to be qualified for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I'm just saying that, or for to be popularized or worthy of people listening to it. It's not like that at all. It's just that this phoned in, trite garbage, enough's enough. Go ahead and keep it simple, stupid, is the acronym that the band Kiss lives by. And it's just, it's a real goddamn shame that that's what our society is kind of gone down to, believing in its own sort of way. Anyway, that's all the time we've got for today's edition of the Top 10 Worst of Lists. What a pleasure it's been to be able to be here yet again to provide you with, what essentially just amounts to a bunch of my opinions. And not that my opinions are worth a goddamn, but I, enjoy doing this, and I'm very opinionated, and I do have a lot to say. A lot of it is, sort of needs to be rigorously taken to task and researched independently. I insist that you do that because, it's about time that you started fact checking things for yourself. But a lot of the stuff, really just needs to be said, and you just don't get to see it because the gatekeepers, will separate out the independent iconoclasts and anti-establishment types and won't allow them with any sort of mainstream level of visibility or distribution. And so it's up to, all of us victims to try and, climb out from underneath the boot heel of these terrorists that are in control of our cultural mechanisms, our media, our education, our politics, and our economy, and try to rise above it. Or else we're going to be doomed to be victimized by these malefactors for the rest of our, probably AI, cybernetic robot shortened lives. But anyway, that's all the time I've got. What a pleasure it's been. Like I said, thanks for joining in. Come on and back again. Enjoy more top 10 worst of lists. And smash the freaking like button if you would. It's a real pleasure. And let's try and get through this mess together. What do you say?